Welcome to Bet My Buttons, a Hunger Games podcast. I'm Mary Kate.
And I am Matthew.
And we are here today to talk about the very first chapter in the entire series. Starting out Book 1, The Hunger Games. Part 1, The Tributes. Chapter 1. Matthew here has never read a word of The Hunger Games. He has never seen a trailer for the movies. And he has no idea what happens. So we are exploring together. He is reading this book for the first time, and I am here to guide him along his journey as an original fan. At the movie theaters, the day the first movie came out back in 2012, I remember when Mockingjay came out, having to go to the Barnes & Nobles to go get a copy of that. So it should be a fun journey.
And it has been. I have now read a chapter of The Hunger Games.
20 pages in. What are your thoughts?
20 pages in. What are my thoughts? Well, I'll tell you this. It started off throwing a lot of information at you. Like, right off the bat, a lot of world building. This is important.
It's very important. I mean, a good book is going to start with world building.
I'm trying to soak up as much as I can, as quickly as I can. But, of course, I now know our main character's name is Katniss.
Yep.
And I'm anticipating at the end, she's obviously going to be the tribute from her district, which is District 12. And
oh my gosh, you know so much.
It turns out she was not picked. She was not picked. Her sister Primrose, yes. Sister Prim was chosen. Which right away I'm like, well, I don't think Prim is going to compete, so I wonder what's going to happen to get her out of it. Mm-hmm. She going to like sneak in and do like a swap? So there's a lot of intrigue there. I'm already just one chapter in. It did a great job of getting me to want to turn the page and keep going, but I felt that we should probably record first after this momentous first chapter.
So we start the book, the first character we meet is Prim. We meet Prim, we meet Mrs. Everdeen, Prim and Katniss' mother, and of course...
Don't forget Buttercup.
We meet Prim's amazing,
maggot-filled,
ugliest cat in the world, Buttercup.
She tried to drown it. Brutal. Like,
Katniss
right
tried
off the
to
bat,
drown it, yes.
I'm like...
Another mouth to feed.
I got that, and she said that, and I was thinking, okay, so, but her mom's alive, but it's explained after the passing of her father, or not passing. I've gotten pretty hard pushback on the fact that I think he might be alive. Just my reaction.
We have discussed very little of this book previous to sitting down in front of the microphone, but while we were reading the first chapter together last night, Matt did have to share. The book specifically mentions that in the explosion in the mines that killed Katniss's father, that the explosion was so bad that not a single body part could be recovered.
And nobody, no crime in my book. Nobody, no crime.
Nobody, no crime.
If there's not a body, I can't say he's dead.
As Taylor Swift once said. Nobody,
many times,
no crime,
over
fans.
and over in a book. Or song. This is a book.
So we meet Prim, we meet Mrs. Everdeen, and of course we meet the disgusting but also lovable Buttercup. And then we start our day. We start our day in District 12.
Yeah, so just like I said, it sounds very gray. They did say there was a black road. Something about that I remember at one point, and I remember thinking that's not the color gray. Which, if you didn't watch our introductory episode, the thing I had to say about the movies in the world was I just remember everything being gray. I could be wrong about that. It could be the most colorful movie in the world, but I was surprised that the color black was also in this story.
Yeah, I just looked down at my copy of the book, and it says the black cinder streets are empty.
Black cinder streets, that was it.
So I think that has to be what he's talking about.
Yes,
and of course, we go on to learn that everything in the district is black because of the coal mines.
Yes.
The dust.
Yes. And speaking of the coal mines, normally everybody would be heading to the coal mines.
Yes.
But today is the day of the reaping, where they're going to pick 2 tributes from District 12.
Yes, she lives in District 12.
So, at first, one of the things that I had written down and was questioning, I was like, does this reaping happen in every district at the same time? Like, is the whole country experiencing the reaping? I was thinking, that seems quite expensive to shut down your entire economy to do what I have now found out seems to be just a power play by the government
Says the man who's got his fingers crossed for the entire year of 2026 being off of work for America's bicentennial.
Well, obviously the government should pay for a year-long birthday party. For everybody. Single American
every
citizen.
person involved. You can't go to restaurants, you can't go to the grocery store, grow your own food, figure it out. Year-long vacation, happy birthday, America.
Happy birthday, America. Yeah, no, yeah. Shut down the entire economy. We made it 250 years. We might not make it another because the celebration's going to be awesome. But anyway, what I was saying, but it does seem like this happens just in District 12, and then it's televised to everybody else. So each district has it at a different time.
I'm not sure. See, kind of my problem, not necessarily a problem, but something that's kind of holding me back here is I'm not sure what you're going to learn shortly.
To answer that question.
Well,
one day, maybe I will.
Yeah, so, but I will say that you are on track. It is not happening in every district at the exact same time. It is televised, so I think you could make some assumptions that theoretically a person could watch the reapings back to back to back to back.
Yeah, I guess that could be true. It could be happening. They cut from one to another. The whole process seemed strange to me, the fact that everybody takes it off, and it's like a holiday, but it's an incredibly dreadful experience, even for, presumably, the reason why it exists is this horrible uprising that tore the country apart. So it's like we're remembering, even in the eyes of the government, they're remembering a tragedy in their eyes of this battle in which they apparently won. Mm-hmm. Although I've got questions about District 13. I'm not entirely sure that they're not a broken off society somewhere. We will maybe find that out at some point. But as soon as they said District 13 no longer exists, I said, well, the land exists. The people have to exist, unless it's been completely nuked off the planet.
Now, I do believe they refer to it as a nuclear wasteland. But again, I could be thinking further into the book.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure that it's not a land that could be prosperous. Now, she goes out to hunt.
Mm-hmm. To the woods.
She's the provider. And so what I'm thinking is, she sneaks out of this electrified fence of some sort. It might not be electrified.
It is electrified, but she also explains that the district only has electricity for a few hours a day.
You would think, being a coal factory, that they would have energy. But I guess they have to give all of it to the state.
They just ship it off. In the Hunger Games, we call them the capital.
The capital.
They just ship it off right to the capital, where all the fancy pants people live.
So she sneaks through this electrified fence that apparently isn't electrified. That seems. But I wrote on there, because she says it's to keep the creatures out. And, well, the first thing I wrote, is it to keep the creatures out, or is it to keep the people in? That's the first thing that came to me. Because when she describes the forest, she talks about fighting off ravenous dogs.
Yes, the wild dogs.
And these creatures. But to me, it didn't seem like there was anything overly dangerous in the woods in the short time that we spent there. Other than just maybe getting caught. Because I find it interesting, her profession seems to be a hunter, but maybe that's not, and at first I was like, well, she has to sneak out an electrified fence. So is hunting illegal? And I think we do find out at some point that it is illegal.
Yes, she says later, I've got it right here, I could be shot on a daily basis for hunting, but the appetites of those in charge protect me. So even the rich people in 12, even the mayor, as we meet in this chapter, relies on the resources that Katniss and her friend Gale get from these illegal woods. The people are starving, and this is going to be a big point in the book of Katniss having to provide.
Yes. I mean, it seems like a valuable skill to have. If you wanted your economy to succeed, allowing people to gather their own food definitely would help with that. But it seems you have to rely on the capital for everything in this world.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, as we've learned, if you opt to put your name into the reaping additional times, you can get grain and oil for your family. So what you have to do, it's called a tessera. It's worth what they call a meager year's supply of grain and oil for one person. You can take it out for each person in your family. Now, the thing is, we also learned that District 12 has only ever had 2 winners, 2 victors.
Yes.
But the districts that often have victors are given winning gifts of grain and oil and even delicacies like sugar.
Okay,
for the rest of the year.
I just had a bit of a brain blast, okay? So these districts, they receive financial benefit for winning.
It's not financial, it's food. Okay, the victors will live in riches.
Yes.
For the rest of time, obviously. But the people of their district, for the rest of the year until the next reaping, will receive grain and oil and things like sugar. And I would venture to say good bread. Katniss talks a lot about good bread.
So, 12 districts.
Mm-hmm.
Her district's only won twice. I bet you there's a few districts that win a lot.
Yes.
And I would venture to guess there's some shenanigans going on with who's picked in those districts. Where they have people... If there was... You could win. The whole district wins.
Mm-hmm.
If I were the mayor of a district, or in charge of a district, I would have somebody who was well taken care of, training, and they would rack up a bunch of tesseracts to go in and fight. You'd send in a ringer... Tesserae. To go in. So then then your whole district would benefit from that. So you'd kind of pump the numbers and try to choose who's going to go in. And this person would obviously volunteer, and I would imagine they'd even have a cushy life beforehand. I'm not saying that's what's happening, but the fact that you would think just over the 74 years, you would have more than 2 winners. One of them's already dead, so that happened probably, we're talking 50 years ago. And it sounds like the man who won, which I do not have his name.
Hamish
Abernathy.
We will go on to learn later, but I feel like it is okay to tell you now, he wins the 50th Hunger Games.
50th. Okay, so he's, I was going to say he's probably in about his 40s, which lines up about 20, gets you to 70.
Say he's 16, 14, 24 years go by.
He might be a little closer to 50.
He's probably closer to 50.
So, he seems like a haunted man, and at first I was like, well, what is he? Why is he showing up drunk? What is he hiding from? And I guess if you had to kill 23 people savagely to survive, this might not be the greatest memory of your life, the day you were chosen for this. So it
which really excites a reader for the new book coming out. This is a great opportunity to discuss the new prequel that will be coming out next March, 9 months. It is called Sunrise on the Reaping, and it will begin the morning of the reaping for the 50th Hunger Games, which is the games, of course, that Hamish Abernathy goes on to eventually win.
I don't have much to say because all I know is 1 chapter, but I would be interested to read that or watch that whenever we get it. Months and months from now.
9 months from now, about, is when the book will be published.
I mean, I hope that I assume I'm going to... I think Abernathy is going to be our mentor. I think he's going to be our mentor.
I love
character.
That word.
So we'll see if that is
listeners. You know that's a buzzword there, right there. Hamish as a mentor.
I must be onto something just from that reaction. So we did kind of skip a little bit about the hunting. We jumped
absolutely.
Forward. So they decide to go fishing, and she meets Gale. She meets up with Gale, who's also an illegal hunter.
Yes.
Sneaking through that horrified, non-electric fence.
He is also caring for his family, as she is. We learn that
he had a bunch of kids.
He has 2 brothers and a sister that he's caring for.
He wanted to run away, but he said, oh, but we've got the kids. Which she took as, he wants to have kids. Which I thought was...
I think she knew he meant... the kids that they have been kind of defaulto in charge of taking care of at this point. Because both of their fathers perished in the mines.
Now, did we get... Okay, I was going to say, did we get what happened to Gale's parents? His father also...
I'm not sure we got that in this chapter, but at this point...
You keep spoiling things for me. You gotta be better.
Their parents perished, their fathers perished in the same mining accident.
Supposedly.
Oh, yes, supposedly. Have you shared this theory?
I cannot remember. But there was no body. There was nothing to bury, which means there's no body. I'm not so sure he's gone. He's probably dead, but there's not enough there for me to say he won't show up one day.
I don't know much about mine accidents, but I would imagine that, like, it caves in, right? They're in a cave, and it caves in, and it's closed off. Like, even if he was alive, how is he going to get out? There is somebody who is a miner who mines for a living that is laughing so hard right now. You are a fool.
Remember those Colombian miners who were down there for 27 days and we spent $1 billion pulling them out? Now, this government doesn't quite seem like they've got the best outlook for their people and they're trying to save them. But I'm just saying, there's no body. He might show up one day. I'm getting strong no vibes from your reaction, but you never know. So anyway, they're out there and they decide to go fishing.
Yes. Do they go fishing?
I believe they ask, don't they ask if we're gonna, do you want to hunt over here, or do you want to fish over there? Okay. And they decide on fishing.
Okay.
And two of the things they get are fish. Well, they get 2 fish at the end of the day.
At least.
And I think they get more fish. I think they sell some fish.
Okay.
For some other stuff, because there's an exchange going on. They go to the black market.
Yes, it's called the Hob.
The Hob. So let's see, is there anything else important between Gale, other than we just meet him, she's all dreamy over him, distracted. He's older,
I'm not sure
stronger.
That happens. He is older.
She spends a lot of time...
Gale is 18, Katniss is 16.
She spends a lot of time talking about how... it just seemed like analyzing their relationship. She spent a lot of time doing that, and it just seemed to me like she's got a bit of an attraction growing or sparking with him. I could be wrong. Maybe it's the other way around.
We'll see. Folks, it seems like Matt is pulling early for Team Gale.
Well, he is the only suitor I know up to this point, so maybe there'll be somebody I meet later on that's more exciting. Maybe it's Abernathy. Bit of an age gap there.
But we briefly mentioned the mayor, and they meet the mayor's daughter at the back door, and they sell some strawberries. So even somebody in as high as power, you would have to think this is some of the highest power you can have in a district, is as the mayor, is reaping the benefits of this illegal hunting, yes. Right? Which is why she is theoretically safe. So she meets Madge, who is the mayor's daughter. And I know you wrote in your notes about this interesting real gold pin she's wearing on her dress.
Yes.
That is quite a sign of wealth that she's showing while she illegally trades at her back door for something like fresh strawberries.
I'm assuming it's this pin on the cover of the book.
You could be onto something there.
I've got to guess. I might be wrong. I might not. Yes, and, it was said, and I did not think she was going to be chosen. Mm-hmm. But in this discussion, Gale is very dismissive. He's like, oh, you're not going to be chosen.
Yeah.
How many entries could you have?
Oh, I have 42 entries, and you only have 4, or whatever is the minimum allowed.
I believe he said 6, which would put her at 17.
He says, what could you have? 5 entries? 5. I had 6 when I was just 12 years old.
Okay, so that would put her at 16, if it's the minimum. And that right there, it just made me think, well, is she going to go? Like, I knew... Well... at some point, I wouldn't be surprised if she's in the next one. Just the arrogance in which he's like, you're not going to be picked. And also, I have my theory that I'm not entirely sure that it's a lottery, that they're going in there and actually picking out just at random. And you're the mayor's daughter, you could become a target if the mayor does something to anger the capital.
Unsatisfactory.
So, that's something to keep an eye on in the future. I think we're probably a book or 2 away from anything like that happening, since we already know who our tribute is going to be for this
Do
book.
we, though?
Well, I've got a feeling it's Katniss.
But we're not sure how she's getting there yet.
Even though Primrose is the name that was drawn.
Yeah, and that's where we ended. So we can take a few steps back to getting ready for the reaping with Katniss and Prim and their mother. They make note to mention that they're wearing very nice, special clothes.
Yes. She is very angry at her mother for the way that she has behaved since her father's passing. It seems like she's just become like a shell of her former self. She apparently was well off in District 12, so I don't know how well off that is, but much better than where they are now. and she decided she fell in love with a man, and then that man went and got himself blown up, and now she's just a husk of a person. And so Katniss does not usually like to accept gifts or really, it seems like, interact with her mother at all, but this is so momentous because she's giving her old clothes from when she had money, and
she worked at an apothecary shop.
That's the word, apothecary. And so it's just, Katniss could tell this is something she doesn't do. This is out of the ordinary. So clearly her mother is worried about her, knowing that she's taken out multiple tesseracts. Tesserae. What is a tesseract? That is something.
It's from the Avengers.
The Avengers. Okay, tesserae.
Yeah. I do believe Katniss has her name in the Reaping 20 times.
20 times, which she's 16.
It's a lot more
so
than
that's
one.
15 she's taken out. So it's supposed a meager year. You have to do apparently 15 of those. Oh wait, no, they carry over.
Yes, they're cumulative. So if you take them out for 1 year, you forever have to carry those with you, whether or not you take more out in the next year.
So 5. So she's done 5 a year. 4 a year.
So when she was 12, she was only required to have her name in the Reaping once.
But she took out 4 tesserae.
She took out 3 tesserae for a total of 4 names in the Reaping. So when she turned 13, she had her name in the Reaping 5 times. She took out 3 more tesserae, 8 names. Next year, 9 plus 3 more, 12. Next year, 13 plus 3 more, 16. And then we get to this year, she's got 17 entries plus 3 more tesserae for her total of 20.
It's a lot of entries. Now, it sounds like a lot of people are hurting. So even though it's so many entries, you have to think there's other people out there who have a lot of entries in too.
I mean,
we already know Gale has almost twice.
He has over twice.
Now
he has 42 entries.
He is 18, so he's got his starting point of 7, but it sounds like he's taking out more than 3 a year.
He takes out 5. 5 for himself, his 2 brothers, his sister, and his mother.
So they've racked up quite a bit of entries for this supposedly random lottery draw. So they then go to the market.
No, if we have finished talking about getting ready for the Reaping, we are going to the square.
So, is there anything else? Is there anything that you think I'm missing with the getting ready? I just remember her mom giving her the gift. I don't remember much about Prim. I know Prim was very nervous.
Prim wears Katniss's first Reaping outfit. It's a skirt and a ruffled blouse, and it's a bit too big on her. So people call when you have a shirt that's supposed to be tucked in, but the back of it has become untucked because it's a little too large. They call that a ducktail. So Katniss makes fun of her ducktail, and she says, "Tuck in your tail, little duck." And Prim jokes back, "Quack." So we also meet a very interesting character. We meet our first character from the Capitol, Effie Trinket.
Effie Trinket. This is the woman. This is when I wanted to jump ahead. It was to Effie Trinket. The description of her was repulsive. I believe it was a green suit with pinkish hair.
Yes.
I mean, that's like something out of a Willy Wonka movie. A green suit with pinkish hair.
I think that's something that you will find a lot with people from the Capitol.
They like to wear bright, obnoxious
yes
colors to show off. Look at it's like the old kings. Oh, I've got the color purple. You've never seen. Nobody else has purple. Is it that?
I think that's a good way to think of it.
I was disgusted.
Effie comes up on the stage, and the mayor is there as well, and that's when the mayor reads us the story of the history of Panem, which is really an amazing world building period in the chapter to learn about the brutal war that they faced.
War in which the Capitol loses and the 13th District gets freedom. That's the end of the brutal war. The 13th District gains their freedom. But in their story, they completely destroy the 13th District and now have to steal your children for game and sport.
It's punishment for the uprising that occurred 74 years ago.
So that would be 74 years is longer than we'd have to go back to World War II and even a little bit before that.
Yeah.
Just like thinking historically. So it's a long time ago, but there could potentially still be people alive from a battle 74 years ago. So maybe the 13th District didn't escape and get their freedom. Just because whitewashing history might take a little longer. I would say about 120 years. You need at least a generational gap. But I'm not going to let the theory completely die. Especially when you have this much control over your population through fear. You can definitely hide some things.
Yeah.
Now, I did notice that this is a televised event, so...
Yes.
I kind of assumed that it was more of a modern-day story, but there's cameras, so it isn't like in the past, I guess. This firmly grasps it as at least having technology that we can associate with our everyday lives.
Currently experience.
If there was enough money to go around for everybody to have a TV camera. A televised event in such an impoverished nation, like, who are we televising it to? Just the people in the capital? And if you live in the capital, if you happen to be born in the capital, you don't have to be involved in the reaping at all?
No, capital citizens are not reaped.
So your geographical location, nobody in the capital would ever think that what's going on there is bad and have an uprising. It seems like a short-sighted... I'm not saying that, maybe life is so good in the capital and they just enjoy destroying other people's lives, but it seems like a strange... to punish parts of your nation but not the other. It's almost like they're ruling over these people in a way that they haven't quite accepted them into the nation. Now, for a little bit of a historical precedence on something like this, after the Civil War and the South lost, they lost a lot of rights. In the Reconstruction era, I mean, it really was pretty brutal what the North ruled over them pretty strongly for quite a while until it regrew. But we're talking 74 years here. This is a long time for them to still have an iron fist on all of these districts. And I just was wondering, I wrote very early on, how did the capital get so much power? And it seems like this was the power play, which makes me wonder, when you benefit so much from an uprising like this, was it there? I've got a lot of questions. I don't trust the capital. Anybody who's taking children, it starts at 12 years old. Anyone who's taking children and making them fight to the death, I've got a lot of, that is like tinfoil hat mania. There's definitely some dark things going on. I don't trust anything about this story, really, at all.
It's an interesting perspective to have, to say that you're not trusting the story. So are you believing that Katniss is an unreliable narrator?
No, not Katniss. The woman from the capital, the green suit woman. Effie. Just the story she tells. I'm not saying that it's all a lie, but I'm just saying in general the history here that is being given to us by Effie, I'm not entirely sure we can 100% rely on.
I think the history is being read by the mayor. But
it's still the history that the capital is
the capital has written. Yes, absolutely.
Maybe I'm thinking a little bit too hard about it, and the book wants me to take it at face value. But I just, when we're talking about a dystopian society, I just assume they're up to no good.
Well, it's probably not an incorrect thought.
Yeah, we'll see. There's a whole lot of book to go.
There's a whole lot of book to go.
I'm sure we're going to find out a lot more about this. All this stuff that they're telling us, they're not telling us for no reason. We're going to find out about this 13th District. I'm sure at some point. We're going to find out about this war at some point. I think it's coming. But first, we need to find out what's going to happen next. Because Katniss, I just called her Katniss. Katniss is not chosen, which I know we've said multiple times, but it really did throw me off. I just was like, she's like, it's not me, and then it's like, it's not me. And I'm like, what do you mean it's not you? It's clearly you. You're the one with the bow and arrow in the trailers. Like, it's you. You're the one. But no, it's Prim, and you can't send a 12-year-old. This is ridiculous. 12-year-old, she doesn't even fit in the clothes her sister wore, so she's undersized, presumably.
Her sister is hunting wild dogs in the woods for her to eat. Of course she's undersized.
Now, you said going to be a provider. See, now here you are. Maybe she's going to sneak out to around where the games are, sneak in, and secretly help her sister, and so is Gale. Boom, brain blast. Just hit you with one. She's gonna somehow sneak into the games, but not actually be in the games, and help her sister win with Gale. But I don't quite know. At some point, Gale and Prim would have to kill each other then. Just a thought. I think Katniss is going to be the one who competes in some way.
Very interesting to hear your thoughts as someone who does not know what is coming next and has made such an effort to, all of these years, not learn a single thing.
You know, it's not as hard as you would think. Like, you were talking earlier about how I had stayed out of the fandom, and I was like, yeah, I have, but it's like how little I had seen. It's like, I don't even see Hunger Games memes. And maybe I do, and I just don't even recognize that it's the Hunger Games.
Oh, God, I'm so glad you brought up Hunger Game memes, because tonight, when I'm doing my nightly in the dark Instagram scroll, as everybody does before they go to sleep, I am going to be hunting for it. Oh, we had some real good ones. Oh, they were One Direction Hunger Game crossover memes. And
wow.
They were some real good ones.
That is a subsection of culture that I can't believe that I married into.
Yeah, it's some good ones. Some good ones. I can see them in my mind when I close my eyes.
Oh, is that our first appearance of Lightning?
What's up, little one?
If you heard that cat meow, we have not one, but two cats. Lightning's the one you'll hear meowing, unless for some reason we're recording during the time
during dinner time.
Bubbles is supposed to be fed. Then you will hear him over and over again.
You don't even have to be listening to the podcast. If it's 5:30 where you are, you can probably hear Bubbles asking for food.
And Bubbles probably thinks it's 5:30 somewhere.
Oh, all right, guys. Thanks so much for joining us as we visited the first chapter of the Hunger Games. After this, we are not going to be visiting chapter by chapter, but more part by part. But with all of the world building that happened in this first chapter, we just thought it was important to visit.
And I didn't want some of my theories to be disproven before I could put them on record, or proven, because everything I say is going to come to fruition.
Absolutely.
So I wanted it to be into the ether webs for everybody to hear how smart I am before we read it and find out that I was 100% correct.
Oh, yes, correct. That's what I thought you were going to say, not incorrect at all. So, thanks so much for listening. Hope we'll catch you in the next episode, and may the odds be ever in your favor, fans.